Tennessee Titans fans, we are back today checking out another clip of the media talking about the Tennessee Titans. Why do I do this to myself? I do it for you, the good people in Tennessee Titans and Two-Tone Talk Nation. This is Yahoo Sports, Zero Blitz. Are the Titans all in on Will Levis? But I kind of went through the timeline to see what all they talk about. Will the Titans invest in Will Levis? Will the Titans draft a quarterback? Dear Lord. And then last but not least, will the Titans win the AFC South? So a lot to unpack getting into this video, and I'm sure it'll be a doozy. Here we go.
Speaking of quarterbacks not screwing things up, I think your last question is one of the most interesting storylines of the entire NFL. Look at this tease. And it's not about a team we talk about very often. Hit me up.
Will the Titans' investments in Will Levis pay off? I am fascinated by the Titans this year because they have shown that they're all in on seeing what this Will Levis experiment at least turns out to be. We've seen a lot.
What else are they supposed to do? Like, I don't understand why all these people are like, why are the Titans making all of these moves? It's like, do you want to put your young quarterback in a position to succeed or not? I don't like. Well, they should see what they've got with him. How do you plan on doing that if he doesn't like
young quarterbacks get into situations where they don't have the veteran talent around them to really hit the ground running and flourish a little bit? But I don't think you can say that about Will Levis. I know the Titans, that got laughed at a little bit for like how much they paid Calvin Ridley or going out to sign a running back like Tony Pollard, but you're in information finding mode. You know, you're not necessarily trying to compete. Right, I guess you're always trying to compete, but you're not necessarily thinking you're going to win a Super Bowl. But you've given Will Levis a chance, right? You have DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, Tony Pollard, TJ Spears, Okonkwo at tight end.
He fixed
He's a solid player. Then you go out and you draft your left tackle of the future with J.C. Latham.
Was this before or after Boyd? 8 days ago, so this is brand new. So yeah, Boyd, they just left him out.
Giving him a chance. It's more than what a lot of young quarterbacks can say outside of like, you know, Caleb Williams and maybe Jaden Daniels this year with some of the talent they have at wide receiver. Now, will they pay off?
C.J. Stroud ended up having a lot of talent at wide receiver last year. You know, Tank Dell, Nico Collins.
I don't know. I think that's kind of tough to project without seeing like what Will Levis looks like in the preseason. But man, it's tough to say that they haven't given him like every chance to win this year, just based on how hard they went in on offense this offseason. So when you look at like supporting casts around the division, it's probably, I think it's better than Jacksonville's now because you stole their wide receiver. Maybe it's about on par with where Indianapolis is and what they put around Anthony Richardson, but this is a good group. It's a good group that's going to help you win games.
My only thing, because it says, will the Titans invest in Will Lewis but that's probably a YouTube thing. Anyway, the one thing is, though, I get what he's saying. Listen, when it comes to Will Levis, I don't know either. I'm optimistic. I'm very hopeful. But, like, truthfully, yeah, we don't know. And I've said it before on this channel and on this podcast. It's going to come down to him. I mean, there's more than enough around him. There's more than enough around him now, like he said, that Will Levis should be able to win some games if he's anything resembling that guy. That's true. But also, why are we acting like we've never seen Will Levis play in an NFL game? He's not Anthony Richardson. He's actually played in multiple games. And so, like, I'm not going to say Will Levis was perfect. I'm not going to say he had a perfect situation around him. Everything that he's got now, a hopefully improved offensive line, a much improved receiving group and weapons around him. He didn't have that last year, and he didn't get until halfway through the year with a terrible offensive line, and outside of DeAndre Hopkins, really nobody to throw the ball to. So, even acknowledging that, Will Levis did some really good things. Made his mistakes too, but The debut against Atlanta, going on the road on a short week against Pittsburgh in his second start ever, his first on the road. I thought he played well. The Miami comeback I thought was good. And then in the Indianapolis game, the first Houston game, there were good things throughout there. Some mistakes, some blunders, sure. But I don't know why we're acting like, I just haven't, we're acting like we've never seen it play. Like, he showed some good things. He showed potential. That's why they're making these moves, is because they think what he showed last year was enough to believe that he could be something.
Games, and it's going to get Will Levis to be the best version of himself that he can be in year 2.
I really like the way you described the thought process on it, because I guess there's a little element of like, why not? I mean, if you think there's any chance Will Levis is the guy, so who cares about your owner's money? Your owner went out and spent some money. Fine. They spend that money. They bring in enough talent. Now you're going to find out. You're going to know one way or the other. If he chokes, if Will Levis can't do it, well, you're probably going into the draft next year hoping you can find a quarterback. Again, I don't think that's a great class, but that's what you're hoping. But at least you've given yourself the opportunity to get the most accurate answer to this. Like, you're not putting him with a bunch of bums and then delaying it another year where you're like, yeah, but he just didn't have any good quarter or wide receivers around him. We got to get this. We got to get that. Like, you're eliminating all of the buts, and you're getting a definitive answer. And if he's not the guy, then whoever is drafted next year, or whatever quarterback they bring in, has a much better room to deal with as they're looking at, and they're like, hey, it's this sort of like, let's build a solid foundation and then see if we have the right quarterback. If we don't, we're going to have an easier time when we get the right quarterback.
These guys get it.
And this is, I really appreciate what the Titans did this year. And it's more about like probably microaggressions that I have with like some of the maybe more analytics minded people on football Twitter, which is not like a big slight, but we get into this. It's a slight, not a big one. It's just a small one.
Tiny slight.
It's a tiny slight. We get into these conversations about like saving assets, saving cap space, not using these things on the wrong thing. And I remember when Calvin Ridley got his deal signed, people were like, oh, how could you spend all this money on Calvin Ridley? $23 million a year. Well, dude, at the time, the Titans, they had like $50 million in cap space left after they'd already made moves that offseason or this past offseason. You don't get anything for walking into the season with a boatload of cap space. You don't win anything that way. Like,
I'm gonna start watching these guys. I love that. They're spot on. They started off and I was being hard on them just because I'm trained to do that on here. But like, these guys get it. I agree with most everything they're saying.
You need to spend this money. You need to spend these assets, and you need to compete. I think we've gotten to a point sometimes where people are so okay with just like sitting on assets and throwing a year away, and that's not always practical. So I really appreciate what the Titans did.
Lest we forget, that's what people wanted Houston to do or thought Houston was going to do last year. Oh, they've got Stroud, so now he can get a rookie year under his belt, and then maybe next year they can start building. Hey, if you've got the money and the assets to go out and be aggressive now, you don't get bonus points for trying to play it conservative. Think of it like a football game. You don't get bonus points, for punting on 4th and 1 in the opponent's territory. That's stupid. Go for it. Be aggressive, right? Some people are going to think that's me taking a slight at a former head coach. It's not. It's just what came to mind. Yes, Houston last year, they said, forget it. You guys think we're just building around C.J. Stroud right now and we're just coming out here to try to get a look at him and see what we got for next year? No. We're going out here. We're trying to win. And they ended up winning the division. I hate to use Houston as the example, but like, why try to play that game? Why try to play the conservative? Let's just put it into savings and see maybe by 2029 if we can. No. You got money? Spend it. Go get the best wide receiver available on free agency. Go trade for L'Jarius Sneed. Go sign Tony Pollard. Go draft J.C. Latham. Go get a new center. Go get some other corners. Go do this, do that. Go do everything you can do. You don't get bonus points for putting everything into a big giant savings account for maybe next time. Come on.
You spend money at wide receiver. You spend money at running back. You go draft an offensive tackle. Are you going to win the Super Bowl? Probably not. But you're going to get it. You're going to compete. You're going to see if you can find something. And that is the ethos of sports. So I just want to applaud Rand Carthen, applaud the Titans, and we're going to go take our sport back.
Yeah, there is some element of like, So I do a weekly hit. I lived in Nashville, for anyone that doesn't know, for over 20 years, right? So I do a weekly hit with the ESPN radio station there every week. And I said a few weeks ago, I said, anybody that makes a definitive statement about the Titans this year is lying to you, because we don't know if Will Levis is the answer. We have no idea if Brian Callahan can be a head coach. We have no idea. Like, it might be, could be, who knows? Or it could be all Zach Taylor's offense and he's just out there getting lucky. I don't know. Like, we don't know what any of this looks like. So to me, that's one of the exciting things about the Titans. Like, I would not be surprised at all if, when it all shakes out, the Titans finish in second in their division. Like, when you look across the board, I still don't trust the Jags right now to get things right. I don't know that we've seen enough from Anthony Richardson. The knock when he was drafted is he needs game experience. Well, I don't want to bog everybody down with details here, but he didn't get any damn game experience last year.
Oh, I'm going to have to sub to these guys. Well, it's Yahoo Sports. I'll sub anyway. Thank you. All I've wanted was this. This is all I've wanted this whole time. I have said it before. I'm not asking you to pick Titans to win the Super Bowl. I'm not asking you to pick the Titans to win the AFC South. I know everybody's going to pick the Texans to win the AFC South. But how could you possibly know? Nothing that happened last year or the year before or during when Mike Vrabel was here or John Robinson, none of that matters. It's a new owner, or it's not a new owner, a new GM, a new head coach, a new scheme, a completely new style of offense. Nothing from last year matters. It's mostly a new roster. None of that matters. And Calvin Ridley is not a bum. L'Jarius Sneed is not a bum. Cheeto Awuzie is not a bum. Lloyd Cushenberry is not a bum. Tony Pollard's not a bum. These guys that they went out and got, J.C. Latham's huge. Tavondre Sweat's huge. These guys that they went out and got are not just bums that they got on wholesale. That's what we used to do. That's not what we did this offseason. So, knowing that, it's a new head coach, it's a new offense, it's a quarterback that we're still trying to figure out, I agree with him. How could you definitively say it all? If you can't definitively say anything about the Titans, how can you say anything definitively about the Colts? Their quarterback has hardly any in-game experience. The Jags were 8-3 and fell apart, and we're just acting like they're going to take that momentum and,
What, 5 games? Like, the thing he needs is reps. So we still don't really know what that's going to look like. And Jonathan Taylor wasn't himself when he came back rushing the football. Like, I think the only team right now that you can say definitively in that division that doesn't have any questions, clear-cut leader, is Houston. Like, Houston, their question is, can they figure out how to compete with Kansas City? But for everybody else, it's a jumbled mess where I could see a surprise team in that division winning 9 games.
Yeah. This division's up for the taking to me. I've seen a lot of talk about the Texans. I am a little bit concerned about their defense.
Oh,
just a smidge. They weren't actually that good on defense last year. They were like situationally good at times. You go back to the Browns games, like where they picked Joe Flacco off a couple of times. That was good. Then they go to Baltimore next week and just get run the hell off the ball. So I think
not enough people are talking about that. People are acting like that Ravens-Texans game in the playoffs was a close one. The Ravens dominated that game. Especially the last 3 quarters.
But that defense is probably still a year away from being the unit that they want. The offense is going to be awesome. But if you can find a way to score on the Texans, I think that this division's gettable.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe you're not winning like the division, but podcast. You can steal a game to sneak into like that wild card spot at the end of the season.
Yeah.
I just think all of these teams are especially the Colts, the Jaguars, and the Titans. I think they're all just about the same thing in terms of like the total pieces that they've actually put together. Yeah, I would say of those 3, Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback, but your best receiver just went over to the division rival. Anthony Richardson, you're back, but you only played 4 games last season. The Jonathan Taylor experience was better last year than it was the year before, but still kind of up and down. All these teams have flaws, but I don't think there's any bottom feeders here, which should make for a really fun division. Like this is the one group that I'm really looking forward to watching this year, just with the quarterback talent and mix of veteran talent that they've added, and get a little bit of bad blood between the Titans and the Jaguars, which is low-key a rivalry that has potential because those fans absolutely hate each other, if people weren't aware.
Regionally, that rivalry matters a lot. It'd be an interesting future show to do like rivalries that matter more locally than nationally, because if you say, like, if you go to Titans fans and you say Jags, they still remember the year that the Titans only lost, 3 games all year, two in the regular season, 1 in the playoffs, and all 3 of them were to the Jags. So, like,
they got it backwards.
that stuff just...
That was backwards. I'm not just saying that. That's backwards. It was the Jags that only lost 3 games all year, and they were all to the Titans.
That stuff haunts, right? Like, it's just... It absolutely sits. Like, Jags fans, Titans fans hate each other. It's an interesting rivalry. I could see it going 2 ways. I could see it going either like where this division becomes sneaky good, or we're sitting there late in the season saying, "Oh dear God, we have to watch the Colts and the Jags on Amazon tonight." Like, it just feels like that. It's either
maybe. I will just say that was the best clip I've watched so far. In terms of like making me mad, that was probably one of the best, because I really pretty much almost agreed with everything they said. When he said there are no bottom feeders in this, that's funny to me, because there are some shows like that and some analysts who have the Titans with like a top 5 draft pick next year. They've got the Titans like picking at the top, and it's like, so the moves they made meant nothing to you. So I like these guys. I'll be honest, I've never seen that show before, but I might have to check it out, because these guys, very, very spot on, in my opinion, spot on analysis.